Today I'm going to be showing you guys an amazing set of 4-1-4-1 custom tactics that I've been using to go undefeated in FUT champs. Let's get into it. Now the 4-1-4-1 is one of those formations that, especially set up the way I use it, is such a different approach to what most people use, especially like good players as well, that people really struggle to get a read on you when you use this formation. So, for example, say you're in a game using a 4-3-2-1 with the normal setup, and you're struggling to get in. If you switch to something like this, honestly, it's so different. The odds of you not having success by changing it up this much are extremely unlikely. So, this is an awesome custom tactic to have in your back pocket, and it's one that I'm actually starting games with now because I'm having so much success with it. The defensive style is balanced. Defensive width is 35, so very compact. I wouldn't be opposed to upping this a little bit, but this is just what I've been running with and I haven't lost with it yet, so I'm going to keep it as it is. Depth 71, because you've got such a dominant midfield shape with sort of a line of 5, just playing a high press is really, really hard for people to play out of, so I do actually run with 71 depth for the 4-1-4-1. Build-up play is balanced, chance creation is possession, direct passing isn't really a style I like using with this formation. I like to really sort of kill the speed of the game with this formation and really make the opponent work to get the ball back, so possession serves that really well with those shorter passing options. Width straight down the middle at 50. You don't want to go too narrow because there's a lot of people in midfield and it can kind of get clustered and they can almost get in each other's way. So I wouldn't go any lower than 50, and that has worked absolutely spot on for me. Now you'll notice the players in the box is as low as 3. Now you would think, oh crikey, how are you going to even create chances being that passive? Well, you just generally have more people around the edges rather than just bombing into the box. If you look at the description on the right hand side, it's when you drop it to 3, it changes to this different description which says, when in the crossing zone, adjust your team to have less players in the box for a more patient attacking style. Your players will stay outside the box and rarely make forward runs for crossing situations. Now, remember, we can trigger L1 runs, we can do L1 passes to get the pass of making a run after they've passed the ball. There's plenty of ways for you to still trigger runs, but by putting it on this setting, it just leans into the style that we're trying to format the team to play. A more possession-based, slower, build-up style of play. So obviously we've got the possession on there, but just dropping the players in the box just basically really leans into what we're trying to do with this formation, which is take our time, pick our passes, and break the opponent down in a slower way. Corners and free kicks, I run 2 and 1, but just go with whatever your personal preference is. Getting into the player instructions, we will start with the striker and work our way down. Now, in all honesty, I think the striker instruction is probably the most important with this one because it ensures that they do not get isolated, and that is drift wide. Nothing else, just drift wide. And the drift wide instruction will ensure that whichever flank you're attacking down, the striker just generally tucks over to that side. They're not going to be taking up the wingers' positions. It's not as drastic as that. It is just a way of them sort of making more diagonal runs, which, one, are more difficult to defend than just straight line runs, but it just helps with the interplay a little bit, and it just ensures the striker doesn't get isolated and cut out of the game. It makes it a lot easier to link them in with the wingers, and just generally more of the build-up and get them more involved. Both of your wide players are just on comeback on defence. Honestly, just the way they attack and the positions they take up are really good in this formation, so I haven't really forced anything with the chance creations or the support runs. I've just left that as it is, and then as far as the defensive support goes, come back on defence just so we've got more players back on the defence. So for our left centre mid and central defensive midfielder, they are both stay back while attacking cover centre. I like having my stay back centre mid on the left because that's the side I generally attack down more, and it just means they're there as an option to pass the ball back to for shots from the edge of the box or for them driving the ball into the box with like a driven pass to the players that are making runs into the box. CDM, as you'd expect, you just want them sitting in the hole and being your anchor in midfield, so they are just on the same as the left centre mid for that purpose. The right centre mid is completely default, apart from the defensive position is cover centre as well, because we've got a winger on either side defending the flanks, and then we've got our striker sort of occupying the space up top. So essentially we don't need our right centre mid actually covering the wide areas. You could put your right mid to stay forward, and then you could have the right centre mid on cover wing to cover that space, but we're going to get plenty of numbers back. We want the winger dropping as well, so it is important to put the cover centre on your right centre mid, just so they're not taking up weird positions on the defence, keeping that middle really congested and hard for the opponent to get through. It's definitely worth noting your right centre mid needs to be an out-and-out attacker. I go for my out-and-out attacker that is also a finesse shot threat in this position, and then I put my more sort of powerful runners with the clinical fishing. We'll put my players with the more clinical finishing in the wider positions, because they tend to get on goal more than the right centre mid. The right centre mid is more of like an edge of the box threat, but with the drift wide on your striker, they will often sometimes commit as like a second striker. So you need someone capable in this position, but I do opt for my more finesse shot threat style player in it regardless. Both wing backs are stay back while attacking, and the centre backs and goalkeeper are all just on the default. This formation is very compact and hard to break down, and we lean into that by not committing any of our defenders in this formation. This is one of those where you haven't got people flying forward, and you haven't got loads of dedicated attackers. But because you're leaning into a slower build-up play with the possession, with the players in the box being a bit lower, it's one of those styles where if you do take your time and you don't try and rush, the actual people that do get forward, which is your two wingers, striker and right centre mid, they're devastating in the positions that they take up. And it's actually really, really easy to score goals with, so long as you do serve the patient style of play that the formation is formatted to utilise. As I run you guys just through a few of the goals I scored with the formation, just so you can get an idea of how the formation plays and kind of visually sort of see what I've been talking about in terms of how it has been formatted. I would say if you are someone that likes to use the aerial plus sort of meta, I would put them on the far side. So for example, let me explain this a little bit clearer. So if you tend to attack down the left, I would put your aerial plus threat as the person in the right mid spot, and vice versa. If you're someone that attacks down the right, put your aerial plus threat on the left-hand side. You're not generally going to get in many positions to utilise the aerial plus if you actually put them in the striker position. But with how this attacks, with it being a more minimal sort of committed attacker approach, I wouldn't go for someone very, very stiff in that wide position as your aerial plus. They aim for someone like a CR7 that still has that bit about them on the ball and can do a job out wide outside of just the aerial plus threat. So I wouldn't be playing like a Weghorst out wide. I would aim for someone like a CR7 that can do a bit on the ball as well. As your left centre mid, just aim for a more box-to-box nimble style. In the hole, you can play another box-to-box style player in that CDM position. But at this stage of the game, if you want a big man as well, that is absolutely fine. But if you want to just put your more defensively capable box-to-box style player there, that also works. You could argue Valverde isn't actually a DM and is more box-to-box anyway with the way I've set this up. Your right centre mid, aim for that finesse shot threat, like I say. And then as far as your wing-backs go, you haven't got to necessarily go for anyone that is too good going forward, because you're not really consciously committing them. But obviously, you've always got the option to actually send them on an overlapping run if you want to. So if you do like to trigger your wing-backs on runs, even in a stay-back setup, by all means, just get players in there that are capable, but it isn't necessary for how this formation is formatted. But as always, guys, if you did make it this far in the video, I really appreciate your time. If you did enjoy it, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and turn your bell on. Take care, guys.